She gave us this doll yesterday." A man in a suit kneels before a tombstone, stunned, as two twin girls approach, each holding a blonde doll identical to the one in the framed photo on the grave. The girls smile at him, and one points to the image, unveiling a secret he could never have imagined. What he doesn't know is that the simple toy in their innocent hands is the key to unraveling a mystery that will rewrite the history of his own family and challenge everything he thought he knew about his deceased daughter. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. "My daughter has been dead for 5 years. What you're saying is impossible." The cold October wind swept through Oakwood Cemetery in Boston as James Wilson stared at the twin girls standing in front of his daughter's grave. His hand still clutched the bunch of white roses he had brought for Chloe. "No, sir," said one of the girls, her light brown pigtails peeking out from under her red coat. "We saw her yesterday at the park." She knew our names. James felt his heart skip a beat. Both girls looked about 7 years old and wore matching red coats. What caught his attention most was what they held in their small hands. Each girl clutched a blonde doll with a blue dress and yellow ribbon. The dolls were exactly like the one in Chloe's photo on the marble headstone. "That's my Chloe," James said, pointing to the smiling face etched in stone. In the picture, 15-year-old Chloe had her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was holding her favorite doll, Lily. She got that doll on her 7th birthday. The second twin stepped forward. "She told us her doll was named Lily. She said we should come here today to meet you." James knelt down to their level, his expensive black coat touching the damp ground. "What are your names?" "I'm Lucy," said the first twin. "I'm Sarah," added the other. "How did you know to find me here?" Lucy pointed to Chloe's picture on the headstone. "She told us her daddy comes here with white flowers every year on this day." James glanced at the roses in his hand. He always brought white roses. They were Chloe's favorite. "She gave us these dolls yesterday," Sarah continued, holding up her doll. "She said they're just like her Lily." "She told us to tell you something," Lucy said, her small face serious. "She said the circle needs to be completed." James opened his mouth to ask more questions when a woman's voice called from across the cemetery. "Lucy! Sarah! Where are you girls?" The twins turned toward the voice. "That's our mom," Lucy explained. "We have to go now." Before James could stop them, the girls waved goodbye and ran off toward a figure in the distance. James stood frozen, watching them disappear among the gravestones. For several minutes, he remained motionless beside Chloe's grave. Finally, he placed the white roses in the stone vase and touched the cold marble of the headstone. "What's happening, Chloe?" he whispered. The cemetery was quiet except for the rustling of leaves. James straightened his tie and walked back to his black Mercedes parked on the narrow cemetery road. Inside the car, he sat with his hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Chloe had died 5 years ago in a car accident while coming home from a school dance. James had been waiting up for her that rainy night when the police called instead. The memories still felt fresh, the pain still raw. As he drove home to his Beacon Hill mansion, the twins' words echoed in his mind. How could they have dolls identical to Chloe's? How did they know he visited the cemetery today? And what did that message mean? The circle needs to be completed. James pulled into his driveway and entered his empty home. The large house was silent and cold despite its expensive furnishings. Since losing his wife to cancer when Chloe was 10 and then losing Chloe 5 years ago, James had buried himself in his real estate business, building towers and complexes across Boston while his personal life remained hollow. He walked straight to his study and poured himself a glass of whiskey. The amber liquid burned his throat as he swallowed it quickly. Then he went upstairs to Chloe's bedroom. The room remained exactly as she had left it that night 5 years ago. Her school books were still on the desk. Her clothes still hung in the closet. Sometimes James would sit in here for hours, trying to feel close to his daughter. He picked up a framed photo from her nightstand. Chloe, at age 12, laughing at the beach. James had taken that picture during their last vacation together. "Did you send those girls to me?" he asked the photo. "How is that possible?" James placed the photo down carefully and sat on the edge of Chloe's bed. He took out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number for his assistant, Megan. "Megan, I need you to clear my schedule for tomorrow," he said when she answered. "But sir, you have the downtown development meeting at 9 and lunch with the mayor at—" "Cancel everything," James interrupted. "Something important has come up." "Yes, Mr. Wilson. Is everything okay?" "I don't know yet," James replied honestly, "but I need to find out." After hanging up, James returned to Chloe's room and opened her closet. At the back, behind some winter boots, was a shoebox containing Chloe's most precious items. Inside was a smaller box that held her original Lily doll. James carefully took out the doll. Its blonde yarn hair and blue dress matched exactly what the twins had been holding. This doll had been stored away since Chloe outgrew it at age 10. There was no way anyone could have seen it, let alone copied it. James returned to his study with the doll and placed it on his desk. He opened his laptop and started typing "Twin Girls Boston" and then added Lucy Sarah to narrow the search. Thousands of results appeared, none helpful. He needed professional help with this. James picked up his phone again and scrolled to another contact. Mark Davis, a private investigator who had worked for his real estate company before. "Mark, it's James Wilson. I need your help with something personal. Can you meet me tomorrow morning at 8? As the night grew darker, James sat in his leather chair staring at Chloe's doll. The twins' message kept repeating in his mind, "The circle needs to be completed." James didn't believe in ghosts or messages from beyond. He had built his empire on concrete facts and hard numbers, but he couldn't deny what he had seen today. Two little girls with impossible knowledge and identical dolls. Sleep would not come that night. James moved between his study, Chloe's room, and the large windows overlooking Boston's skyline. As dawn broke over the city, he made a decision. He would find these twins and discover the truth behind their impossible story. James Wilson had built skyscrapers and transformed entire city blocks, but now he faced a mystery no amount of money or power could easily solve. His daughter had been gone for 5 years, yet somehow she had reached out to him through two little girls he had never met before. For the first time since Chloe's death, James felt something other than grief or numbness. He felt purpose. Whatever completing the circle meant, he would find out. For Chloe. As morning light filtered through the windows, James showered and dressed in a fresh suit. He placed Lily the doll carefully in his briefcase next to his laptop. The workaholic who never took personal days was about to put his entire empire on hold to chase the words of two children in a cemetery. He had no idea that this pursuit would unearth secrets that would forever change the foundations of his carefully ordered life. James drove to downtown Boston early the next morning. The sleek office building where Mark Davis worked was just opening for the day. James checked his watch as he rode the elevator to the 5th floor. 8 o'clock. He was right on time. Mark Davis greeted him with a firm handshake. Mark was a former police detective who now ran his own investigation firm. He had helped James with background checks on business partners in the past. "Good to see you, James," said Mark, leading him into a small office with file cabinets along one wall. "You sounded worried on the phone." James sat down in the chair across from Mark's desk. "I'm not sure if I should be worried or not. Something strange happened yesterday." Mark leaned forward. "Tell me everything." James took a deep breath and explained his encounter with the twin girls at the cemetery. He described their identical dolls and the message about completing the circle. As he spoke, Mark took detailed notes on a yellow legal pad. "I know how this sounds," James said. "Maybe I imagined it. Maybe they were just playing a prank." Mark put his pen down. Kids that age don't typically make up detailed stories about dead people they've never met. And those dolls, you said they match your daughters exactly? James nodded and opened his briefcase. He placed Chloe's doll on the desk. This was Chloe's. It's been in storage since she was 10 years old. Mark studied the doll. And you want me to find these girls? Yes, I need to know who they are and how they know about Chloe. Mark wrote something in his notebook. I'll need a description of the girls and any other details you remember. They looked about 7 years old, light brown hair and pigtails. They wore matching red coats. Their names are Lucy and Sarah. Last name? James shook his head. They didn't say. But a woman called for them, probably their mother. Not much to go on, Mark admitted, but I'll start with elementary schools near the cemetery. Twin girls named Lucy and Sarah should be easy enough to find. James stood up. How long will it take? Give me 3 days. I'll call you as soon as I have something. After leaving Mark's office, James drove to Lincoln Park. The twins had mentioned meeting Chloe there. It was a large public park with playgrounds, walking paths, and open grassy areas. James found a bench near the playground and sat down. He watched children playing for hours. Some ran around the jungle gym while others pushed each other on swings. Parents chatted on nearby benches or pushed strollers along the paths. None of the children were the twins he had met. James returned to his car when the afternoon grew cold. He felt foolish, sitting alone in a park all day. Tomorrow he would go back to work while Mark conducted his investigation. But the next day, James couldn't focus on work. He kept checking his phone for messages from Mark. By early afternoon, he gave up and left his office, telling his assistant he would work from home. Instead of going home, James returned to Lincoln Park. He sat on a different bench, watching different children play. Again, no sign of the twins. For the next 2 days, James developed a routine. He would go to his office in the morning, leave by lunch, and spend the afternoon at Lincoln Park. His assistant stopped asking questions when he disappeared each day. On the 3rd day, James's phone rang as he sat watching the empty playground. It was Mark Davis. I found them, Mark said. Can you meet me at my office in 1 hour? James arrived at Mark's office in 45 minutes. Mark had a folder ready on his desk. Lucy and Sarah Parker, Mark said, opening the folder. 7-year-old twins. They attend Pine Creek Elementary School. Mark slid several photos across the desk. They showed the twins playing in a schoolyard wearing matching blue uniforms. They live with their mother, Emily Parker, in a small yellow house near Lincoln Park. James picked up one of the photos for a closer look. Emily Parker? Mark nodded. Does that name mean something to you? James felt like the room was spinning. Emily Parker was my girlfriend in college. We dated for 3 years at Boston University. That's interesting timing, Mark said, because according to my research, the twins just turned 7 years old last month. And there's something else you should know. He pulled out 2 birth certificates. There's no father listed on either document. James stared at the birth certificates, then back at the photos of the twins. He looked more carefully at their faces, the shape of their eyes, their smiles. He saw his mother's features looking back at him. We broke up 20 years ago, James said quietly. I moved to New York to start my business. We lost touch. Mark leaned back in his chair. The timing fits, James. They would have been conceived right around the time you broke up. That's impossible, James whispered. But even as he said it, he knew it was not only possible but likely. She never told me. What do you want to do now? Mark asked. James stood up, still holding the photo of the twins. I need their address. Mark wrote an address on a slip of paper. The yellow house on Maple Street. But James, if these are your daughters, you might want to think carefully about how to approach this situation. James nodded absently as he took the paper. Thank you, Mark. James drove straight to Maple Street. The yellow house was small but well-maintained with flower boxes in the windows. James parked across the street and sat in his car watching the house for almost an hour. No one came or went. Finally, he drove away and headed for Boston General Hospital. Mark had mentioned that Emily worked as a nurse there. James parked in the visitor lot and waited. At 5:30 in the evening, he spotted her walking toward the parking garage. Emily looked tired but still beautiful. Her brown hair, now with a few strands of gray, was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore blue scrubs and a light jacket. James sank down in his seat as she passed by his car. He wasn't ready to confront her yet, not until he was sure. He followed her car at a safe distance. She drove to a house a few blocks from her own and picked up two small figures that James immediately recognized as the twins. They must have been at a babysitter's house after school. James watched as Emily and the girls got back in their car and drove the short distance to the yellow house. They went inside and lights came on in what appeared to be the kitchen. For the next 3 days, James established a new routine. He would visit Lincoln Park in the morning, hoping to see the twins there. In the afternoon, he would drive past the yellow house. He never got out of his car or approached the house. He just watched from a distance, trying to gather his courage. On the 7th day, his patience was rewarded. While sitting on what he now considered his bench at Lincoln Park, he spotted two familiar figures in matching green jackets approaching the playground. The twins ran to the swings, laughing as they tried to go higher than each other. James watched them for several minutes, his heart pounding in his chest. They were so full of life, so innocent. His daughters. Finally, James stood up and walked slowly toward the playground. The twins noticed him when he was halfway there. They stopped swinging and stared at him. "You're the man from the cemetery," Lucy said as he approached. Sarah jumped off her swing. "Did you bring your daughter with you today?" James shook his head. "No, I came to see you girls." The twins exchanged a look that seemed to contain an entire conversation. Then Lucy gestured to the bench nearby. "Do you want to sit with us? We can tell you more about your daughter." James followed them to the bench, his legs feeling weak. He sat down between the two girls, aware that his expensive suit looked out of place in the playground. "Can you tell me more about the girl who gave you the dolls?" he asked carefully. Sarah pointed to the very bench they were sitting on. "She sat right here. She knew everything about us." "She said she was our sister," Lucy added, looking up at James with eyes that looked so much like his own. "And that you're our daddy, but you didn't know about us yet." James felt a chill run through his body. He looked at the two small faces watching him. The girls seemed completely comfortable talking to him, as if they had known him their entire lives. "How did you know I'm your father?" James asked gently. Lucy swung her legs back and forth on the bench. "Chloe told us. She said you build big buildings and that you have a big house on a hill. She said you like to drink coffee in the morning with the newspaper." "She knew you would be sad," Sarah added in a quieter voice. "She said we could help you not be sad anymore." James tried to stay calm. "Did Chloe tell you other things about herself? Things only she would know?" Both twins nodded eagerly. Lucy spoke first. "She told us her favorite ice cream is mint chocolate chip. She said you took her for ice cream every Sunday after church when she was little. And she told us about her hamster named Button," Sarah continued. "She said he escaped one time and you both found him sleeping in your shoe." James felt his heart beating faster. These were true stories no one outside his family could know. The hamster incident happened when Chloe was 9 years old, and they never told anyone about the embarrassing way he had screamed when finding the hamster in his expensive shoe. "She told us the bedtime stories you made up," Lucy said. "The ones about Princess Moonbeam who lived in the clouds." James put his hand over his mouth. The Princess Moonbeam stories were special bedtime tales he created just for Chloe. They were never written down or shared with anyone else. "When did you last see Chloe?" James asked carefully. The twins looked at each other again. Sarah answered, "Yesterday at the park. She comes to play with us a lot." "She said she's on a long trip now," Lucy added. but she wanted us to meet you." James realized the twins didn't understand that Chloe had died. To their young minds, Chloe was simply away on a trip. He decided not to correct them yet. "Can you tell me about your mom?" he asked. "Our mom is a nurse," Lucy said proudly. "She works at Boston General Hospital. She helps sick children get better." "She works a lot," Sarah added. "Mrs. Wilson next door watches us after school until Mom comes home." James found it strangely coincidental that their neighbor had his last name. "Mrs. Wilson?" "She's old," Lucy explained. "She makes good cookies. She lives in the blue house next to ours." "Would you like to come to our house?" Sarah asked suddenly. "We could show you our room and our books and our dolls." James smiled but shook his head. "I would like that very much, but I need to talk to your mother first." "Is she at work today?" Lucy nodded. "She works until dinner time. Then she picks us up from Mrs. Wilson's house." "Are you really our daddy?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide and serious. James looked at her small face, seeing his own eyes looking back at him. "I think I am," he said softly. "But I need to talk to your mother to be sure." The twins seemed satisfied with this answer. They chatted for a while longer, telling James about their school and their friends. James listened, amazed by how smart and articulate they were. After about 30 minutes, Lucy jumped up. "We need to go back to Mrs. Wilson's house now. She'll be looking for us." "She knows we come to the park," Sarah explained, "but we promised to be back before 4 o'clock. James nodded. "Can I walk you back?" "No, it's just there." Lucy pointed to a blue house visible from the park. "We're not allowed to walk with strangers." "But you're not a stranger," Sarah said. "You're our daddy." James felt a lump in his throat. "Still, your mom's rules are important. I'll watch from here until you get safely inside." The twins said goodbye and ran toward the blue house. James stayed on the bench, watching until they disappeared through the front door. Then he walked slowly back to his car, his mind racing with everything he had learned. He sat in his car for a long time, trying to process the situation. These girls were almost certainly his daughters. They had his eyes, his mother's smile. The timing made perfect sense. Emily must have discovered she was pregnant after they broke up. James checked his watch. It was nearly 5 o'clock. Emily would be finishing her shift at the hospital soon. He started his car and drove to Boston General Hospital. James parked where he had the day before and waited. At 5:30, he spotted Emily walking toward the parking garage. She looked tired from her shift. Her hair was coming loose from its ponytail and she carried a large bag over her shoulder. This time, James didn't hide. He got out of his car and walked toward her. "Emily!" he called. She stopped walking and turned toward his voice. When she saw him, her face went pale. For a moment, she didn't move or speak. "James," she finally said, "what are you doing here?" James walked closer until he stood in front of her. "I met Lucy and Sarah." Emily closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked resigned rather than surprised. "I always knew this day would come," she said quietly. "Why didn't you tell me?" James asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Emily glanced around the busy parking lot. "This isn't the place for this conversation." "Then where?" James demanded. "Your house?" "My house? A restaurant? You've kept this secret for 7 years, Emily." "They're almost 8 now," Emily corrected him. She sighed deeply. "Follow me home. We can talk there. The girls are at the neighbor's house. We'll have time to talk before I pick them up." James nodded and walked back to his car. He followed Emily's small blue sedan through the city streets to her yellow house on Maple Street. They parked in her driveway, and Emily led him to the front door. Inside, the house was small but comfortable. The living room had a worn couch with colorful pillows. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator in the kitchen. School books and toys were neatly organized on shelves along one wall. "Would you like coffee?" Emily asked, her voice formal and distant. "Yes," James replied, still standing awkwardly in the middle of the living room. Emily busied herself making coffee in the kitchen while James looked at the photos on the wall. There were many pictures of the twins, as babies, toddlers, and now as school-age children. In every photo, they were smiling. Emily appeared in some pictures looking tired but happy. There were no photos of any men, no father figure in any of the pictures. Emily returned with 2 mugs of coffee and gestured for James to sit on the couch. She took a chair across from him. "They're mine, aren't they?" James asked directly. Emily nodded. "Yes. Lucy and Sarah are your daughters." "Why didn't you tell me? We were together for 3 years, Emily." Emily set her coffee down. "When I found out I was pregnant, you had already moved to New York. You were starting your company. You talked about nothing but your big plans, your big future. There was no room for a family in those plans." "That wasn't your decision to make," James said, his voice rising slightly. "Wasn't it?" Emily challenged. "You broke up with me to pursue your career, James. You said a long-distance relationship wouldn't work because you needed to focus on your business." James ran his hand through his hair. "That didn't mean I wouldn't have wanted to know about my children." "Maybe not," Emily conceded, "but I was 22 years old and suddenly pregnant with twins. I was scared. By the time I worked up the courage to tell you, you were already making headlines with your first big real estate deal. Your life was moving forward exactly as you planned. Mine was changing forever." "So you decided to raise them alone," James said. Emily nodded. "I did. My parents helped me finish nursing school. We managed. The girls have a good life." James looked around the modest living room. "You could have asked me for money." "It was never about money, James. It was about what kind of life we would have together, or apart. I chose apart because it seemed simpler, cleaner." James was about to respond when a new thought struck him. "How did Chloe find you?" Emily's expression changed immediately. She looked down at her hands. 3 months before Chloe died, she showed up at our door. She found us through a fundraising page for the children's hospital where I work. She saw a picture of the twins and recognized them somehow. She said they looked like your mother." "And you just let her visit them?" James asked incredulously. "Without telling me?" "She begged me not to tell you," Emily said. "She said she wanted to prepare you first." "She was a remarkable girl, James. She loved those twins immediately and they adored her." "She never said a word to me," James whispered. "Not one word about finding her sisters." Emily stood up and walked to a cabinet near the dining table. She visited every Saturday for 3 months. The girls looked forward to it all week. "Every Saturday?" James stared at her in disbelief. "But Chloe was always home on Saturdays." She said she was studying with friends or at school activities. Emily opened the cabinet and pulled out a wooden box. "She kept this secret very carefully. I think she wanted to make sure the relationship was solid before telling you." She brought the box to the coffee table and opened it. Inside were dozens of photographs. Emily handed the first one to James. In the photo, Chloe sat on a park bench with Lucy and Sarah on either side of her. All 3 were smiling at the camera. Chloe had her arms around the twins protectively. James recognized the bench as the same one in Lincoln Park where he had just spoken with the girls. "This was their first meeting," Emily explained. "Chloe was so nervous. She stood outside our house for 20 minutes before finding the courage to knock." James examined the photo closely. The date stamp in the corner showed it was taken 5 months before Chloe's accident. His hands trembled slightly. "Why would she keep this from me?" he asked. Emily sat back down. "She said she was worried about how you would react. She told me you still got sad whenever anyone mentioned your past relationships." "That's true," James admitted. "After her mother died, I avoided talking about my life before our marriage. It was too painful. Chloe understood that. She told me she was going to tell you, but she wanted to prepare you first." Emily pulled out more photos. "She started mentioning my name occasionally, watching your reactions." James remembered those moments now. Chloe asking casual questions about his college days, mentioning Emily's name once or twice. He had changed the subject each time, unaware of the real reason behind her questions. Emily handed him another photo. This one showed Chloe helping the twins with artwork at a kitchen table. Paint and paper were spread everywhere, and all three girls were laughing. "She taught them how to draw," Emily said. "Sarah has real talent, just like Chloe did." James looked through more photos. Chloe at a playground pushing the twins on swings. Chloe reading books to them on a couch. Chloe helping them with simple homework. "I can't believe she did all this without me knowing," James said quietly. "She came every Saturday morning while you were at your golf games," Emily explained. "She would stay until mid-afternoon, then make sure to be home before you returned." James remembered his Saturday routine: golf with business associates, followed by lunch at the club. He was always home by 4 o'clock, and Chloe was always there working on homework or watching TV. "Here's the last photo we took together," Emily said softly, handing him another picture. The photo showed Chloe and the twins at what appeared to be a birthday party. A cake with 7 candles sat on a table, and the twins wore matching party hats. Each girl held a blonde doll, the same dolls James had seen at the cemetery. "Their 7th birthday," Emily explained. "1 week before Chloe's accident." James stared at the photo, noticing the date stamp. "The girls told me Chloe gave them these dolls yesterday. It was weeks ago." Emily nodded. To children their age, time is different. Something that happened weeks or months ago can feel like yesterday, especially when it's important to them. Chloe made such an impression that in their minds her visits still feel recent. And the dolls? She brought them as birthday presents. She said they were exactly like the doll she had as a child. She called hers Lily. James remembered. "I gave her that doll for her 7th birthday. She wanted to pass the tradition on to her sisters," Emily said. "She told them stories about her doll Lily and said now they could all have matching dolls." James put the photos down and rubbed his eyes. "I don't know how to feel about all this. I'm angry she kept this from me. I'm sad I missed these moments. I'm confused about why she thought I couldn't handle it." "She was 15, Emily reminded him gently. "She was trying to fix something broken in a way that made sense to her. She loved you very much, James." They sat in silence for a moment, the photos spread between them on the coffee table. Finally, James asked, "What did she mean by, 'the circle needs to be completed'?" Emily shook her head. "I'm not sure." She told the girls to remember that phrase, that it was important to tell you when the time was right. James picked up the birthday photo again. "The twins think Chloe is just away on a trip. They don't understand she's dead. I've tried to explain it," Emily said, "but they're still young. They talk about her as if she's just temporarily gone. Sometimes I think maybe that's healthier for them." The front door opened suddenly and the twins burst into the living room. They stopped when they saw James sitting on the couch. "Hi, Daddy," Lucy said, running toward him. "You came to our house." Sarah followed more slowly, smiling shyly. "You met Mom," she observed. Emily stood up quickly. "Girls, you're home early. Where's Mrs. Wilson?" "She had to make a phone call," Lucy explained, climbing onto the couch next to James. "She said we could come home because your car was here." Sarah pointed to the photos on the table. "Those are our pictures with Chloe." James didn't know how to respond. He looked at Emily for guidance. "Yes, they are," Emily said carefully. "Mr. Wilson and I were just talking about Chloe." "He's not Mr. Wilson," Lucy corrected. "He's Daddy." "Chloe told us so." James felt tears forming in his eyes. He blinked them away and cleared his throat. "Yes, I am," he said softly. "But this is all new for me. I just found out about you girls." "We knew about you," Sarah said, sitting on his other side. "Chloe told us stories about you all the time." "What kind of stories?" James asked. "She said you build really tall buildings," Lucy answered, "and that you can fix anything that breaks, and that you make the best pancakes for breakfast." She said you were sad because you missed her mom, Sarah added, but that you're brave and strong. James was touched by how Chloe had portrayed him to her sisters, not as a workaholic who buried himself in his job after losing his wife, but as someone brave and capable. Chloe loved you very much, he told the twins, and she was very happy to have you as her sisters. Emily checked her watch. Girls, it's almost dinner time. Why don't you go wash your hands while I talk to your father a bit more? The twins jumped up obediently and ran to the bathroom. When they were gone, Emily turned to James. What happens now? She asked. James gathered the photos and placed them carefully back in the box. I'd like to be part of their lives, if you'll allow it. They're your daughters, Emily said. You have every right to know them. But we need to do this carefully, James said. For their sake. Emily nodded. We can work out a schedule. Maybe you could visit them here first, get to know them in their own environment. That sounds reasonable, James agreed. And Emily, thank you for raising them so well. They're amazing girls. Emily smiled sadly. They are, and they deserve to know their father. James stood up to leave. I should go. Let you have dinner with the girls, but I'd like to come back tomorrow if that's okay. The girls would like that, Emily said. Come at 4. They'll be home from school by then. As James walked to the door, the twins ran back into the living room. Are you leaving? Lucy asked, disappointed. Just for tonight, James assured her. I'll come back tomorrow. Promise? Sarah asked. I promise, James said firmly. He drove home to his empty mansion on Beacon Hill, his mind full of everything he had learned. When he arrived, he went straight to Chloe's bedroom. He stood in the doorway looking at the preserved space, her bed with its purple comforter, her desk with school books still stacked neatly, her closet full of clothes she would never wear again. James walked slowly to the closet and opened the door. He looked at the rows of clothes, the shoes lined up on the floor. In the back corner, behind some winter boots, he noticed a shoebox he had never paid attention to before. He knelt down and pulled out the box. On the lid, written in Chloe's neat handwriting, were the words, My other family. James stared at the shoebox for several seconds, then carried it to Chloe's bed and sat down. The mattress sank slightly under his weight. With shaking hands, he removed the lid. Inside was a diary with a blue cover, several small wrapped packages labeled For Lucy and For Sarah, and a half-finished friendship bracelet made of colorful threads. James picked up the diary and opened it to the first page. The date at the top was written in Chloe's neat handwriting. It was from 8 months before her death. James began to read, Today I found out I have sisters. Twin sisters. I was doing research for my family tree project for school when I found Dad's old college yearbook in the attic. I was looking for pictures of Dad when he was young. I found a photo of him with his arm around a girl named Emily Parker. They looked happy together. I got curious and looked up Emily Parker online. I found her on the website for Boston General Hospital, where she works as a nurse. There was a fundraising page for the Children's Hospital with her picture. She was standing with 2 little girls who looked about 6 years old. The page said they were her daughters, Lucy and Sarah. The girls looked just like Grandma Rose in her old photos. They have Dad's eyes, too. I did the math. They would have been born after Dad and Emily broke up. I think they're my half-sisters. Dad never mentioned Emily having his children. I don't think he knows about them. James put the diary down for a moment. He remembered the family tree project. Chloe had asked to look through old photos and boxes in the attic. He had thought nothing of it at the time. He continued reading. The next entry was dated a week later. I've decided to meet them. I found Emily's address online. She lives in a yellow house near Lincoln Park. I'm nervous but excited. I won't tell Dad yet. He still gets sad when anyone mentions relationships from before Mom. I'll wait until I'm sure. Then I'll find a way to tell him carefully. James turned the page. Chloe had written about her plan to meet Emily and the twins. I'll go on Saturday while Dad is at his golf game. I've practiced what I'll say to Emily. I hope she doesn't get angry. I just want to meet my sisters." The next entry made James's heart beat faster. "I did it! I went to Emily's house today. I stood outside for a long time before I found the courage to knock. When Emily opened the door, she knew who I was immediately. She said I looked just like pictures she's seen of my mom. At first, she was surprised and worried. She invited me in and we talked in her kitchen while the twins played in the backyard. I explained how I found her. She asked if Dad sent me. I told her he doesn't know. Emily seemed relieved, but also sad. She said she always wondered if Dad would find out about Lucy and Sarah someday. She never told him because he was building his business when they broke up. She didn't want to complicate his life. Then I met Lucy and Sarah. They're so cute and funny. Lucy talks a lot and asks questions. Sarah is quieter but notices everything. They were shy at first, but then Lucy asked if I wanted to see their drawings. They're both good at art, just like me. I didn't tell them I'm their sister yet. Emily thought it would be better to wait. For now, I'm just Dad's friend's daughter who came to visit." James wiped tears from his eyes and continued reading. The next several entries described Chloe's Saturday visits with the twins. She wrote about teaching them to draw better, helping with homework, and telling them stories about James. She described how the twins gradually accepted her as a friend. In one entry, Chloe wrote, "Today I told Lucy and Sarah that I'm their sister." Emily was there to help explain. Lucy had so many questions. Sarah was quiet but kept holding my hand. I showed them pictures of Dad and told them stories about him. I want them to know what a good father he is. I told them about how he taught me to ride a bike and how he makes pancakes every Sunday morning. Lucy asked why Dad doesn't visit them. I explained that he doesn't know about them yet, but that someday he will. Sarah asked if that meant they would have a dad like other kids at school. I promised them they would. James had to stop reading for a few minutes. He walked to the window and looked out at the dark Boston skyline. His daughter had been living a secret life, creating relationships he knew nothing about. She had been planning to tell him about his other daughters. The accident happened before she could. When he returned to the diary, he found an entry where Chloe questioned her decision to keep the secret. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing by not telling Dad about Lucy and Sarah right away. But when I mention Emily casually, he always changes the subject. He's still not ready. I need to prepare him slowly. The twins are so excited about having a big sister. Today we made a secret handshake that only the three of us know. Lucy said we should have something that makes us special together." As James continued reading, he found entries about the twins' upcoming 7th birthday. Chloe was planning to give them special gifts. "I found 2 dolls that are exactly like my old doll Lily. Dad gave me Lily for my 7th birthday. I'm going to give Lucy and Sarah each a matching doll for their birthday. It feels right to pass this tradition on. They will have a piece of our family history." The final entry was dated the day before Chloe's accident. James read it with a growing sense of dread. "Tomorrow is Lucy and Sarah's birthday party. I've wrapped their dolls in special paper with butterflies. I've told Emily that I'm ready to tell Dad about them. She's nervous, but agrees it's time. I have a plan. I'll start by showing Dad the photo of me with the twins. I'll explain how I found them and why I waited to tell him. I think he'll be shocked at first, but then happy. He's been so lonely since Mom died. He needs more family in his life. If anything ever happens to me, these dolls will bring our family together. Dad needs the twins more than he knows. The circle needs to be completed." James closed the diary, overwhelmed with emotion. Chloe had died the next day before she could tell him about her sisters. The dolls she gave them became the connection that eventually led him to discover the truth. At the bottom of the shoebox, James found an envelope with his name on it. Inside was a letter that Chloe had never delivered. "Dear Dad, by the time you read this, I will have already told you about Lucy and Sarah. I hope you're not angry that I kept them a secret for a few months. I wanted to make sure everything was right before I told you. They're amazing, Dad. Lucy is brave and talks nonstop, just like I did when I was little. Sarah is quiet and thoughtful, but she sees everything. They both love art and stories, just like me. And they both have your eyes. I know it might be strange at first, but I think they need you in their lives. And I think you need them too. Since Mom died, our house has felt too empty. I think Lucy and Sarah can help fill that space with noise and laughter again. Emily is a good mom. She's kind and patient, and she works hard to give the girls a good life. She's not angry at you. She said you were both young when you broke up, and she made her choice to raise the girls alone. Please try to be a father to Lucy and Sarah. They deserve to know you, and you deserve to know them. Love, Chloe. James folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. Then he looked at his watch. It was nearly midnight. He picked up his phone and dialed Emily's number, which he had saved earlier that day. She answered on the third ring, her voice groggy with sleep. "Hello? I found Chloe's diary," James said without introduction, "and a letter she wrote to me. She was planning to tell me about the twins the day after she died." There was silence on the line for a moment. Then Emily spoke softly. "I know. We had planned it together. She was going to talk to you after the twins' birthday party." "I need to see you," James said. "Not tomorrow afternoon. Now. It's important." "James, it's midnight. The girls are asleep." "Please," James insisted. "I won't wake them." "We can talk on your porch if necessary, but I need to talk to you now." Emily sighed. "Fine. Give me 15 minutes. James grabbed Chloe's diary and the letter, then drove through the empty Boston streets to Emily's yellow house. The windows were dark except for a small light on the porch. Emily was waiting for him, wearing a robe over pajamas. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. "You found her diary," Emily said as he walked up the steps. James nodded, holding up the blue book. She documented everything. Finding you, meeting the twins, her plans to tell me. "She was very thorough," Emily said with a sad smile. "She wanted everything to be perfect when she told you." "Why didn't you contact me after the accident?" James asked. "You knew she was planning to tell me." Emily looked down. "At first I was too shocked by her death. Then I didn't know how to tell you. Sorry your daughter died, by the way. You have 2 more daughters you never knew about? It seemed cruel to add that to your grief." "So you just continued keeping them a secret from me," James said, his voice rising slightly. "Lower your voice," Emily warned. "The girls are asleep." James took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at the situation, at all the lost time." "I understand," Emily said, "but you know now, and the twins already love you. Chloe made sure of that with all her stories." James looked at the diary in his hands. The last thing she wrote was about completing the circle. "I think I know what she meant now." Emily leaned against the porch railing. "What do you think she meant?" "She wanted to unite our broken family," James said, opening the diary to the final entry. "She wrote that the dolls would bring us together if anything happened to her. It's exactly what happened." "She was wise beyond her years," Emily said softly. James closed the diary. "I want to be part of their lives, Emily. I've missed 7 years already." "It won't be simple," Emily warned. "The girls have a routine, a life that doesn't include a father figure. And you have your business, your social obligations." "None of that matters now," James insisted. "These are my daughters. I want to know them, to be their father." Emily studied his face for a moment. "Come back in the morning. We'll talk more when I'm fully awake. 6 o'clock before the girls get up for school." James nodded. 6 o'clock, I'll bring coffee." He drove back to his empty mansion but didn't sleep. Instead, he sat in his study reading and rereading Chloe's diary. When the first light of dawn appeared, he showered, changed clothes, and drove to a coffee shop that opened early. He bought 3 different types of pastries, not knowing what Emily preferred. At 6 o'clock exactly, he knocked softly on Emily's door. She opened it immediately, dressed for work in blue scrubs, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. "The girls are still asleep," she whispered, accepting the coffee he offered. "We have about 30 minutes before they wake up." They sat at the small kitchen table. Emily took a sip of coffee and sighed appreciatively. "I have a proposal," James said. "I'd like to visit the twins 3 times a week to start. I could come by after they finish school. Maybe I could help with homework or take them to the park. I want to be involved in their daily lives." Emily considered this. "That seems reasonable. They have dance class on Mondays and swimming on Wednesdays. You could come Tuesdays, Thursdays, and maybe spend time on weekends." "That would work," James agreed. "And eventually, once they're comfortable with me, perhaps they could visit my home sometimes." "One step at a time," Emily cautioned. "They need to get to know you first. Remember, they've never had a father in their daily lives." "Chloe told them about me," James pointed out. "Yes, but Chloe told them stories about a perfect dad who makes pancakes and teaches bike riding. The real thing is more complicated." James knew she was right. "I'll follow your lead on this, Emily. You know them best." They heard movement upstairs, small feet padding across the floor. "They're up," Emily said. "Are you staying for breakfast?" "It might be nice for them to see you here in the morning." James nodded, surprised by the offer. When the twins came downstairs in matching puppy pajamas, they squealed with delight at finding James at their kitchen table. "You came back!" Lucy shouted, running to hug him. Sarah followed more cautiously but smiled widely. "Are you having breakfast with us?" "If that's okay with you," James said. "Do you like cereal?" Lucy asked. "We have 3 kinds." Over breakfast, James listened as the twins talked excitedly about their upcoming school day. Emily explained to them that James would be visiting regularly, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. "Will you take us to your big house?" Lucy asked. "Eventually," James replied. "First, I want to spend time getting to know you here." The next few weeks established a new pattern in James's life. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, he left work early to arrive at Emily's by 4 o'clock. He helped the twins with homework, played games with them, or took them to the nearby park. On Sundays, he spent the entire day with them. Sometimes Emily joined them for outings to museums or the zoo. Other times, she used the free day to run errands or simply rest. James discovered that being with 7-year-old girls required skills he had never developed. The first time Lucy invited him to a tea party with her dolls, he sat awkwardly on a tiny chair at a small table in their bedroom. "No, Daddy," Lucy corrected him. "You have to hold your pinky up when you drink tea. Like this." She demonstrated with her small plastic teacup. "And you have to compliment the hostess on her lovely home," Sarah added seriously. James played along, learning the complex rules of their games. He discovered that Lucy loved to make up elaborate stories about her doll's adventures, while Sarah preferred to draw pictures of her doll in different settings. During an art session at the kitchen table, James found himself covered in glitter after Lucy's enthusiastic project exploded in sparkles. To everyone's surprise, including his own, he laughed instead of getting upset about his ruined suit. "I've never seen you with glitter in your hair," Emily commented, entering the kitchen to find the mess. "I think it's an improvement," James replied, making the twins giggle. One Thursday evening after the twins had gone to bed, James and Emily sat in her small living room drinking tea. "You're good with them," Emily said. "Better than I expected." "They make it easy," James admitted. "They're patient teachers. They talk about you all the time now. Daddy said this, and Daddy showed us that." James felt warm at the word Daddy. It had been strange at first, but now it felt right. "I'd like them to see my home," he said. "Maybe next Sunday." Emily hesitated. "I worry about exposing them to such luxury. Our life is simple here. I don't want them feeling caught between 2 very different worlds." James understood her concern. What if I come to your world more instead? I could learn to grocery shop, cook dinner for all of us sometimes." Emily looked surprised. "You want to cook for us?" "I can learn," James insisted. "I'm not completely helpless." The following Sunday, Emily took James grocery shopping for the first time in years. He had always had staff who handled such tasks. James pushed the cart while the twins added items from Emily's list. Back at the yellow house, James attempted to make spaghetti under the twins' supervision. The sauce splattered everywhere, and the noodles were slightly overcooked, but the girls declared it the best dinner ever. Later that week, James tried to braid the twins' hair before school. The results were comically lopsided. "You need practice, Daddy," Lucy said kindly, while Sarah tried not to laugh. After putting the girls to bed one night, James and Emily talked honestly about their past relationship. "I'm sorry I didn't keep in touch after our breakup," James said. "I was focused on building my company, but that's no excuse." "And I'm sorry I didn't tell you about the pregnancy," Emily replied. "We were both young and making the best decisions we could at the time." Neither blamed the other. The past couldn't be changed, but they could shape the future for their daughters. As James prepared to leave that evening, Emily handed him a small wooden box. "What's this?" he asked. "Things you missed," she said gently. "The twins' hospital bracelets from when they were born. Their first shoes, baby photos." James opened the box and found tiny pink bracelets with Parker Baby A and Parker Baby B printed on them. There were small white shoes, barely bigger than his thumb, and photographs, the twins as newborns, as crawling babies, as toddlers taking first steps. "Thank you for this," James said, his voice thick with emotion. "You missed the beginning of their story," Emily said, "but you're here now for the middle and the end." When James reached his car, he sat for a long time looking at the baby photos by the light of the street lamp. Lucy and Sarah had his mother's nose and his own determined chin. How had he not known they existed? How had he lived 7 years without these precious girls in his life? As he drove home, James realized his priorities had shifted completely in just a few weeks. The business meetings that once seemed so crucial now felt unimportant compared to Lucy's tea parties and Sarah's thoughtful questions. The next morning, James placed the twins' baby photos in silver frames on his desk at work. His assistant, Megan, noticed them immediately when she brought in his morning coffee. "Are those your nieces?" she asked, studying the pictures. James took a deep breath. It was time to acknowledge his daughters to the world. "No," he said proudly. "They're my daughters." Megan's eyes widened. "Your daughters?" "But I thought, it's a long story," James said. "I've recently discovered I have twin daughters from a past relationship. They're 7 years old." "Wow," Megan said, clearly surprised. "Congratulations. They're beautiful." "Thank you," James said. "I'll be adjusting my schedule to spend more time with them. Family comes first now." Over the next month, James established a solid routine with the twins. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he left work early to arrive at Emily's house by 4 o'clock. He helped Lucy and Sarah with homework, learned their favorite games, and discovered their distinct personalities. Lucy was always talking, jumping from one topic to the next with endless energy. She asked dozens of questions about everything from his work to his childhood. "Did you have a dog when you were little?" Lucy asked one Tuesday while they worked on her math homework. "I want a dog." "Mom says maybe next year. If we get a dog, can it come to your house too?" Before James could answer, she continued, "This math is boring. Can you build a house with just math? I want to build houses like you when I grow up, or maybe be a vet or a teacher." Sarah was different. She spoke less but noticed everything. She watched James carefully before deciding to trust him with her thoughts. One afternoon, while Lucy played outside, Sarah showed James her special drawing book. "These are just for me," she explained, turning pages filled with colorful pictures. "Chloe said I have talent. Do you think so?" "These are wonderful," James said honestly. "You see details others miss." Sarah smiled, pleased with his answer. Chloe used to draw with me every Saturday. She said art helps you see the world better. Each Sunday, James spent the entire day with the twins. Sometimes they went to the Children's Museum or the aquarium. Other times they simply played in Lincoln Park or baked cookies in Emily's kitchen. The twins taught James their secret twin language, a mixture of made-up words and special gestures. This means I need help without saying it, Lucy explained, tugging her ear in a specific way. And this means, that's not true, but I'm being polite. She blinked 3 times slowly. We made it up when we were 5, Sarah added. No one else knows it, except Chloe. We taught her. And now you, Lucy said proudly. James noticed that Emily watched these growing bonds with mixed emotions. She seemed happy that the girls loved spending time with him, but worried too. One Sunday afternoon, while the twins played in the backyard, James brought it up. You seem concerned, he said to Emily as they sat on her porch steps watching the girls. Emily sighed. I'm glad they have you in their lives now. But it's happening so fast. I worry they'll get hurt if things change. What would change? James asked. Your interest. Your availability, Emily said frankly. Your life is very different from ours, James. You have business trips, social events, responsibilities that don't include 7-year-old girls. I've rearranged my priorities, James assured her. Nothing is more important than being their father now. Emily seemed unconvinced. It's been a month. What about next year? Or when they're teenagers with problems that aren't cute and simple? I'm committed to them for life, James said firmly. I've missed 7 years. I won't miss any more. After 6 weeks of regular visits, James suggested the twins visit his home for the first time. My house is lonely, he told them during dinner at Emily's. It needs the sound of children's laughter. Lucy bounced in her seat. Can we go? Please, Mom? Emily hesitated. Your house is very different from what they're used to, James. What's different? Sarah asked. James and Emily exchanged a glance. Daddy's house is much bigger, Emily explained carefully. Like a castle? Lucy asked excitedly. James laughed. Not quite a castle, but it is big and very quiet without children. After dinner, when the twins were upstairs getting ready for bed, Emily expressed her concerns. I worry about them seeing how differently you live, she said. Our life is modest. Your mansion on Beacon Hill is anything but. James understood her point. What if I came to your world more instead? I want to learn how to be part of their everyday life. What does that mean exactly? Emily asked. Teach me what parents do, James said. Grocery shopping, cooking meals, school drop-offs, I can learn. Emily looked surprised but pleased. You really want to learn those things? Yes, James said simply. I want to be a real father, not just a Sunday visitor. The next day, Emily took James grocery shopping. He pushed the cart while she explained how she budgeted for meals and chose fresh produce. Mom, can we get these? Lucy asked, holding up a box of colorful cereal. Check the sugar content, Emily instructed. Lucy turned the box over and frowned. It's high, isn't it? Very high, Emily confirmed. Try the one with the grain picture instead. James watched this exchange with interest. He had never considered checking food labels before. His kitchen staff handled all such details. Later that week, James attempted to cook dinner for the family. He chose a simple pasta recipe, but even that proved challenging. The sauce splattered across Emily's stove, and the noodles turned out too soft. The twins giggled as they watched him struggle. You're making a big mess, Daddy, Lucy observed. But it's a happy mess, Sarah added kindly. The meal was far from perfect, but they all ate it happily. James felt more satisfaction from this imperfect dinner than from any 5-star restaurant meal he'd ever had. One morning, James arrived early to help get the twins ready for school. Emily had an early shift at the hospital, so she showed him the morning routine. Breakfast first, then teeth brushing, then hair, Then backpacks, she explained. Lucy will try to skip teeth brushing if you don't watch her. I will not, Lucy protested. Yes, you will, Sarah corrected her sister. You did yesterday. James managed breakfast successfully, but hairstyling proved difficult. His attempts to create neat pigtails for the girls resulted in comically uneven results. My side is higher than Sarah's, Lucy giggled, looking in the mirror. You look like you're surprised on one side and sad on the other, Sarah told her sister, trying not to laugh. James looked at his failed hairstyling attempt. I need practice. It's okay, Daddy, Lucy said, patting his hand. Mom says learning new things takes time. After 3 weeks of these practical lessons, James felt more confident in his parenting abilities. He learned to pack proper lunches, check homework, and even handle minor emergencies like a splinter in Sarah's finger. One evening after the twins were asleep, James and Emily sat in her living room drinking tea. Thank you for teaching me, James said. I never realized how much work goes into raising children. Emily smiled. You're a quick learner. I had good teachers, James replied, all 3 of you. Their conversation turned to their past relationship. For the first time, they discussed their breakup honestly. I was so focused on my career, James admitted. I convinced myself a long-distance relationship would hold both of us back. And I was too proud to tell you I was pregnant, Emily said. I thought you'd either resent having your plans changed or feel trapped into a relationship you'd already ended. We were young, James said, making the best decisions we could at the time. Emily nodded. No point in regrets now. We've made peace with the past, haven't we? I think we have, James agreed. As he prepared to leave, Emily disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a small wooden box. I've been saving these, she said, handing him the box. Things from the twins' early years. I thought you might want them. Inside, James found hospital bracelets, tiny first shoes, locks of baby hair, and dozens of photographs documenting the years he had missed. The twins as newborns, taking their first steps, blowing out birthday candles. I can't replace those years, Emily said gently, but at least you can see what they were like. James looked through the photos, recognition hitting him as he saw his own features reflected in their tiny faces. Thank you, he said, his voice rough with emotion. This means everything to me. On his drive home, James kept thinking about the baby photos. His daughters had existed for 7 years without him knowing. They had learned to walk, to talk, to read, all without their father present. It wasn't Emily's fault or the twins' fault. It wasn't really anyone's fault. But he was determined to be present for every moment going forward. The next morning, James placed the twins' baby photos in silver frames on his desk at work. His assistant noticed them when she brought his morning coffee, leading to his revelation that the twins were his daughters. Word spread quickly through the office. Most people offered congratulations, though James caught a few surprised whispers when people thought he couldn't hear. His business partner, Lawrence, stopped by his office around lunchtime. Twins, huh? Lawrence said, examining the photos. Quite a surprise after all these years. The best kind of surprise, James replied. How does this change your plans? Lawrence asked. The Chicago development needs your attention next month. It's a 3-week commitment. James hadn't considered this. The Chicago project was important, but 3 weeks away from the twins seemed impossible now. I'll need to rethink my role in Chicago, James said. My daughters come first now. Lawrence raised his eyebrows. Just like that? These children you've known for a month are suddenly more important than the business you've built for 20 years? Yes, James said without hesitation. Just like that. Lawrence shook his head in disbelief. You've known these children for 2 months and you're already changing your entire life for them? They're my daughters, James replied firmly. I've missed enough time with them already. After Lawrence left his office, James made a decision. It was time to integrate the twins more fully into his life. He picked up his phone and called Emily. I'd like to invite you and the girls to my home this weekend, he said. Just a small gathering. My friend Lawrence and his wife Margaret will be there. I want them to meet my daughters." There was a pause on the line. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Emily asked. "Your world is very different from ours." "That's exactly why I want this," James explained. "They're part of both worlds now, mine and yours. I want to start bringing those worlds together." Emily finally agreed. They planned for Saturday lunch at James's Beacon Hill mansion. On Saturday morning, James woke up early to prepare. He instructed his housekeeper to make the formal dining room more child-friendly. Fresh flowers replaced the crystal centerpiece. Bright placemats covered the dark mahogany table. When Emily arrived with the twins, James greeted them at the door. Lucy and Sarah wore matching blue dresses that Emily had bought specially for the occasion. "Welcome to my home," James said, smiling at their wide eyes. "Your house is huge!" Lucy exclaimed, looking up at the high ceilings and grand staircase. Sarah stayed close to Emily, clutching her hand. "It's very pretty," she said quietly. James gave them a tour. The twins gasped at the crystal chandelier in the entryway. They giggled at the echo of their voices in the large rooms. Emily followed behind, looking uncomfortable amid such obvious wealth. In the living room, Lucy pointed to a large painting on the wall. "Is that your mom and dad?" she asked. "Yes," James confirmed. "Those are your grandparents. My father passed away many years ago, but my mother lives in Florida now." "Does she know about us?" Sarah asked. James hesitated. "Not yet, but I'm planning to tell her soon." The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of Lawrence and his wife Margaret. James led everyone to the living room for introductions. "Lawrence, Margaret, I'd like you to meet Emily and my daughters, Lucy and Sarah," James said proudly. Lawrence shook hands with Emily, then crouched down to the twins' level. "Hello there. I've known your dad for a very long time." Margaret's smile seemed forced. "What a surprise this must have been for everyone," she said, looking at Emily with obvious curiosity. "James never mentioned having children before Chloe." "He didn't know," Emily said simply. "It's a recent discovery." During lunch, Margaret continued asking pointed questions. "So you never thought to tell James about his children for 7 whole years?" she asked Emily while serving salad. Emily kept her voice calm. "We were both young when we broke up. I made what I thought was the right decision at the time." Lawrence, sensing the tension, changed the subject. He pulled a quarter from behind Lucy's ear, making her squeal with delight. "How did you do that?" Lucy demanded. "Magic," Lawrence winked. "I know lots of tricks. Want to see another one?" Lawrence continued entertaining the twins with simple magic tricks and silly jokes. James was grateful for his friend's effort to make the girls feel welcome. After lunch, James suggested showing the twins Chloe's room. He had been saving this moment, knowing it was important. "Would you like to see your sister's bedroom?" he asked the twins. "I've kept it just as she left it." Lucy and Sarah nodded eagerly. Emily followed as James led them upstairs to Chloe's room. He opened the door slowly. Inside, everything remained as it had been 5 years before. Posters of bands on the walls, books neatly arranged on shelves, Chloe's purple comforter still on the bed. The twins entered quietly, as if sensing the special nature of this space. They walked around slowly, touching Chloe's things with gentle hands. "This was her favorite book," James said, pointing to a worn copy of The Secret Garden on the nightstand. Sarah spotted Chloe's original Lily doll on a shelf. She walked over and carefully placed her own identical doll next to it. "They should be together," she explained. "Sisters should stay together." James felt tears forming in his eyes. Lucy came over and took his hand. "Don't be sad, Daddy," she said. "Chloe is happy that we found you." Just then, James's phone rang. He checked the screen and frowned. "I'm sorry. This is an important business call I need to take. I'll be right back." James stepped into his office across the hall, closing the door. The call was about a problem with the Chicago development that needed his immediate attention. While James was gone, Emily and the twins returned downstairs. As Emily helped the girls get juice from the kitchen, she overheard Lawrence and Margaret talking in the dining room. "Do you think she's after James's money?" Margaret whispered. "Convenient timing to suddenly appear with his children after he's become successful." "I don't know," Lawrence replied. "But James is different now. He's talking about reducing his role in the Chicago project. 20 years of work, and he's willing to risk it all for children he barely knows." Emily stepped into the doorway, making her presence known. Lawrence and Margaret looked up, embarrassed. "Girls," Emily called, her voice tight, "we need to go now." When James returned from his call 10 minutes later, he found Emily putting coats on the twins near the front door. "You're leaving?" he asked in surprise. "What happened?" "I think this was a mistake," Emily said quietly. "Our worlds are too different, James." "But the girls were just getting comfortable here," James protested. "Can't we stay longer?" Lucy asked. "I want to see more of Daddy's house." "Not today, sweetie," Emily said firmly. "We need to go home now." After they left, James confronted Lawrence and Margaret in the dining room. "What did you say to Emily?" he demanded. Margaret looked defensive. "We didn't say anything to her." "But you said something about her," James guessed. "Something she overheard." Lawrence sighed. "Margaret wondered if Emily might be interested in your money. It was just talk between us. We're concerned about you, James." "Concerned?" James repeated. "These are my daughters. Emily could have asked for child support or money at any time in the past 7 years. She never did. She worked hard as a nurse to provide for them herself." After Lawrence and Margaret left, James drove to Emily's house. The twins were playing in the backyard while Emily sat on the porch steps watching them. "I'm sorry about today," James said, sitting beside her. Lawrence and Margaret were out of line. "It's not just them," Emily said. "It's this whole situation. The twins in your mansion seeing that lifestyle, then coming back to our small house. They're going to feel caught between two very different worlds." "You're worried they'll prefer my world," James guessed. "Wouldn't you? Big house, expensive toys, unlimited opportunities." James thought for a moment. "What if I moved closer to you instead? I could buy a house near here, something more modest. A middle ground." Emily looked surprised. "You would leave Beacon Hill?" "The house doesn't matter," James said. "Being near my daughters matters." Emily seemed hesitant but nodded. "I'll think about it." That night, back in his mansion, James couldn't sleep. Emily was right. Their worlds were too different. The twins shouldn't feel torn between two lifestyles. He went to his study and began sketching ideas for a new home. Not a replica of his mansion, but not as small as Emily's house either. Something that would combine elements from both worlds. He designed a library like his current home, but added cozy reading nooks the twins would love. He included a garden space where Emily could grow her herbs. Most importantly, he planned an art studio to honor Chloe's memory, where Lucy and Sarah could develop their artistic talents. As dawn broke over Boston, James realized he had been approaching this all wrong. Instead of trying to fit the twins into his world or himself into Emily's, they needed to build something new together. A new home that belonged to all of them. The next morning, James drove through Emily's neighborhood. 3 blocks from her yellow house, he spotted a for sale sign in front of a charming colonial-style home. It needed work, but the location was perfect. Close enough to maintain the twins' school and friendships, but large enough for everyone to have their own space. James parked his car and called his real estate agent. "I want to make an offer on the house at 42 Oak Street," he said. "Today." 2 days later, James invited Emily and the twins to see the colonial house on Oak Street. The real estate agent unlocked the front door and let them explore on their own. "It needs work," James explained as they walked through the empty rooms. "But I think it could be perfect." Lucy ran from room to room excitedly. "It's so big!" "Which room would be mine?" Sarah moved more slowly, looking carefully at everything. "I like the window seats," she said, touching the cushioned area beneath a large bay window. Emily seemed uncertain. "It's a beautiful house, James, but I don't understand what you're suggesting exactly." James led her to the backyard while the twins continued exploring inside. "I want to renovate this house as a place for me to live near the girls," he explained. "I'll stay in my current home until it's ready. Then I'll have a place close by where the twins can visit easily. Maybe stay overnight sometimes." "You're moving out of Beacon Hill?" Emily asked in surprise. "Being near Lucy and Sarah is more important than any house," James said simply. With Emily's cautious approval, James purchased the Oak Street house and began renovations. He hired architects and designers, but insisted on consulting with Emily and the twins about every decision. "What color do you want your bedroom walls?" he asked the twins one evening at Emily's kitchen table. "Purple," Lucy said immediately. "Blue," Sarah said at the same time. James laughed. "You'll each have your own room. Purple for Lucy and blue for Sarah." The twins looked at each other in shock. "Our own rooms?" Sarah repeated. "Not together?" James hadn't considered this. The twins had always shared a bedroom. "We can make your rooms connect," he suggested, with a special door between them. Would that work? The girls nodded, satisfied with this solution. While the house renovations progressed, James took another important step. He contacted his lawyer, Michael Green, to discuss legally establishing paternity. "We'll need DNA tests," Michael explained in his downtown office. "Once paternity is confirmed, we can file to amend their birth certificates to list you as their father." "What about custody arrangements?" Michael asked, making notes on his legal pad. "I don't want formal custody arrangements," James said firmly. "Emily has been an excellent mother. I want to support her role, not challenge it." Michael looked up from his notes. "Most fathers in your position would seek joint custody at minimum." "Emily and I are figuring this out together," James replied. "We don't need courts telling us how to raise our daughters." James established college funds for the twins and changed his will to include them. He discussed these decisions with Emily one evening after the girls were in bed. "I've named you as trustee for their funds," he told her. "You know what's best for them." "James, this is too much," Emily protested. "The house, the college funds?" "I've missed 7 years," James said. "I can't get that time back, but I can make sure they have every opportunity going forward." The twins were thrilled when James suggested they could add his last name to theirs. "We would be Wilson Parkers?" Lucy asked, eyes wide. "If you want to," James said. "It's your choice." Sarah nodded solemnly. "I want your name too, so everyone knows you're our daddy." As word spread through Boston's business community about James's newly discovered daughters, he decided to make a public announcement rather than let rumors circulate. "I'm planning a charity gala for Boston Children's Hospital," he told Emily. "I'd like to introduce Lucy and Sarah there officially." Emily looked worried. "A gala? With all your society friends?" "It would give me a chance to introduce you and the girls properly," James explained. "And announce a donation in Chloe's memory?" After much discussion, Emily agreed to attend the gala with the twins. James hired a personal shopper to help them find appropriate outfits, despite Emily's protests that it wasn't necessary. On the night of the gala, James arrived at Emily's house in a limousine. When the twins saw it, they squealed with excitement. "A real limousine!" Lucy exclaimed, running around it. "Like in movies!" "Can we ride with the roof open?" Sarah asked. "It doesn't open, sweetheart," James explained, smiling at their excitement. Emily emerged from the house looking elegant but uncomfortable in a simple blue evening gown. Her hair was styled in an updo and she wore minimal jewelry. "You look beautiful," James said sincerely. "I feel ridiculous," Emily whispered so the twins wouldn't hear. "I don't belong in your world, James." "Tonight isn't about worlds," he replied. "It's about family." The ballroom of the Four Seasons Hotel was decorated with flowers and twinkling lights. The twins stared in wonder at the crystal chandeliers and elegant table settings. When it was time for James's speech, he took a deep breath and approached the podium. The room quieted as he began to speak. "Many of you have known me for years," he started. "You knew my daughter Chloe, who we lost 5 years ago. What none of us knew, including me, was that Chloe discovered something remarkable in the final months of her life." James gestured for Emily and the twins to join him at the podium. Chloe found her half-sisters, Lucy and Sarah Parker. Daughters. "I never knew I had from a college relationship with Emily Parker." Murmurs spread through the room. James continued, his voice strong and clear. "Through an extraordinary set of circumstances, Chloe brought these girls into my life even after her death. Tonight, I am proud to introduce my daughters to you all and to announce a donation of $1 million to Boston Children's Hospital to create the Chloe Wilson Memorial Wing." Applause filled the room. The twins smiled nervously at the crowd. Emily stood tall beside them, protective and proud. Throughout the evening, the twins charmed everyone they met, telling guests about their big sister Chloe, who had brought them together. But not everyone was supportive. James overheard 2 business associates talking near the bar. "First he adopts those Chinese orphans for publicity, now this," one man said. "Wonder what's next in Wilson's charity tour." "Makes you wonder if he's stable enough to run the Chicago project," the other replied. "Family drama can't be good for business." James confronted them immediately. "I didn't adopt anyone," he said coldly. "Lucy and Sarah are my biological daughters, and I suggest you keep your opinions about my family to yourself if you want to continue doing business with me." Emily faced similar scrutiny from several society women. During dinner, a woman in an expensive red dress leaned toward her. "How convenient for you to reconnect with James now that he's so successful," the woman said with a false smile. "Some might call it excellent timing." "Some might mind their own business," Emily replied calmly. "I'm a pediatric nurse who has raised her daughters alone for 7 years. James found us, not the other way around." After 3 hours, Emily signaled to James that the twins were getting tired. They said their goodbyes and returned to the limousine. "That was quite a night," Emily said as they drove away from the hotel. "Was it terrible?" James asked. "Parts were nice," Emily admitted. "The donation for the hospital was generous. That wing will help many children." At James's mansion, he had prepared a surprise for the twins. He led them upstairs to what had been Chloe's bedroom. The door was closed with a big red bow on it. "I have something to show you," he said, opening the door. Inside, Chloe's bedroom had been transformed. The bed and dresser were gone, replaced by a bright open art studio. 3 easels stood in the center of the room, 2 new ones for the twins, and Chloe's original easel in the middle. Art supplies filled colorful bins along one wall. The girls' identical dolls sat on a shelf beside Chloe's original Lily doll. "This is your art studio now," James explained. "A place where you can create, just like Chloe did." "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered, running her hand over the art supplies. Lucy twirled around the room. "Can we paint right now?" "Tomorrow," Emily said. "It's already past your bedtime." As the twins explored the studio, James and Emily stepped into the hallway. "This isn't how I imagined my life would go," Emily admitted quietly. "Me neither," James replied. "But maybe it's better than what we planned." Emily nodded slowly. "Maybe it is." As they watched the twins examining the art supplies through the doorway, James realized they were creating something new together. Not the life he had planned, not the life Emily had planned, but something unexpected and precious. "The Oak Street house will be ready next month," James said. "The renovations are almost complete." "The girls can't wait to see it," Emily replied. "They talk about their connected rooms every day." James hesitated, then asked the question he'd been thinking about for weeks. Would you and the twins consider moving in there with me? Not right away, but eventually. It's big enough for all of us to have our own space, but we could be together as a family. Emily looked at him in surprise. You mean, live together? All of us? As a family, James repeated, the circle completed like Chloe wanted. Emily stared at James for a long moment. Living together is a big step, she said finally. We're not a couple, James. I know that, he replied quickly. I'm not suggesting we share a room. The house has plenty of space for everyone to have privacy, but the girls would have both parents under one roof. Let me think about it, Emily said. This is all happening very fast. As December arrived, snow began to fall on Boston. The Oak Street house was nearly complete. James had overseen every detail of the renovation, making sure it would be perfect for the twins. One Sunday afternoon, he took Emily and the girls for a final tour before the furniture was delivered. Fresh paint covered the walls in warm colors. New hardwood floors gleamed throughout the house. The kitchen had been expanded with modern appliances but retained its cozy feel. This is where your rooms will be, James said, leading the twins upstairs. He opened two doors that faced each other across the hallway. Lucy's room was painted light purple, while Sarah's was soft blue. Between them was a special door that connected the two spaces. So you can visit each other without going into the hallway, James explained. The twins ran from room to room, exclaiming over every detail. There were window seats in both bedrooms, reading nooks with small bookshelves and desks for homework. I love it, Lucy shouted, spinning around her purple room. Sarah walked more carefully through her blue room, touching the walls and looking out the windows. It's perfect, she said quietly. Emily stood in the doorway, watching her daughter's excitement. You've thought of everything, she told James. Not me, he replied. Chloe did. I found her notebook with design ideas. She had sketched bedrooms for her sisters years ago. As they continued the tour, James showed them the art studio he had created on the first floor. It had large windows that let in natural light, easels for each of them, and shelves filled with art supplies. This is even better than the one at your mansion, Sarah said, examining the colorful paints. This is your home now, James replied, if you want it to be. Later, when the twins were exploring the backyard, James turned to Emily. Have you thought more about moving in? After Christmas, perhaps? Emily nodded slowly. The girls would love it, and I admit it would be nice to have help with daily parenting. Is that a yes? James asked hopefully. Yes, Emily said with a small smile. We'll try it. But we're keeping my yellow house for now, just in case. That seems fair, James agreed. As Christmas approached, James realized another important date was coming, the 6th anniversary of Chloe's death. The family had been so focused on the new house and their changing relationships that they hadn't discussed how to mark this sad occasion. One evening at Emily's house, after the twins were in bed, James brought it up. The anniversary of Chloe's death is next week, he said. I usually visit her grave with white roses. Emily reached across the table and touched his hand. Would you like company this year? The girls have been asking about visiting Chloe. James felt a surge of emotion. Yes, I'd like that very much. But maybe we could create a new tradition too. Something to celebrate her life, not just mourn her death. The next morning, he asked the twins for ideas. We could make art for Chloe, Lucy suggested immediately. She loved to draw with us. That's a wonderful idea, James said. We could spend the morning making art, then visit her grave in the afternoon. On the morning of the anniversary, the family gathered at the new house. Though they hadn't officially moved in yet, James had arranged for the art studio to be fully equipped. Outside, snow fell gently, covering Boston in a white blanket. Let's each make something special for Chloe, Emily suggested, setting up supplies at the large table. James stared at the blank paper in front of him. I'm not very artistic, he admitted. Just try. Sarah encouraged. Chloe said everyone can make art. James attempted to paint a picture of Chloe's favorite park. The trees came out looking like green blobs, and the pond was oddly shaped, but he kept working on it. Emily created a beautiful photo collage, arranging pictures of Chloe from different ages alongside new photos of the twins. Lucy painted a colorful family portrait that showed 5 people holding hands: James, Emily, herself, Sarah, and Chloe. She added yellow stars all around Chloe. "The stars show she's watching us from heaven," Lucy explained when James asked. Sarah worked quietly in the corner, hiding her project from everyone else. "It's a surprise," she said when Lucy tried to peek. After their art session, they bundled up in warm coats and drove to Oakwood Cemetery. The snow had stopped falling, leaving a peaceful white covering on the ground. They walked together through the rows of tombstones until they reached Chloe's grave. James noticed that the twins stayed close to him, each holding one of his hands. He realized this was their first visit to their sister's final resting place. "This is where Chloe's body is," he explained gently, "but her spirit is still with us." The marble headstone was partially covered with snow. James brushed it away to reveal Chloe's smiling face etched in the stone. The twins studied the picture carefully. "She looks like us a little bit," Sarah observed. "Yes, she does," Emily agreed. "You share the same smile." James placed his bundle of white roses in the stone vase. These were her favorite flowers. Emily stepped forward next, adding a sprig of green rosemary to the bouquet. "This is rosemary," she explained to the twins. "It's a symbol of remembrance." Lucy placed her colorful drawing against the headstone. "I made our whole family together," she said. They all turned to Sarah, who finally revealed her project. It was a drawing of 5 stick figures holding hands in a row. Across the top, she had carefully written, "My whole family." James gasped when he saw it. "Sarah, that's—" He couldn't finish his sentence. "What is it, Daddy?" Sarah asked, concerned by his reaction. James knelt down in the snow beside her. "A few weeks ago, I found a drawing Chloe made before she died. It looked exactly like this one. I didn't copy," Sarah said seriously. "Chloe showed me in a dream." Emily and James exchanged a look over the twins' heads. Whether coincidence or something more mysterious, the drawing provided a powerful sense of connection. "Look," Lucy said suddenly, pointing to the headstone. "There's new words." Below Chloe's name and dates, a new line had been added: "Beloved daughter and sister." James had arranged for this addition after finding Chloe's diary. "She was our sister even before we knew her," Sarah said thoughtfully. The 4 of them stood together in the snow, a family united by loss, but also by love. After a few minutes, Lucy began to shiver. "It's cold," she said. "Can we go to our new house now?" "Our new house," James repeated, liking the sound of those words. "Yes, let's go get warm." That evening, they moved the last of Chloe's things into the Oak Street house. Instead of keeping them isolated in one room, as James had done in his mansion, they distributed her memories throughout their shared home. Her books went into the library, her favorite blanket draped over the living room couch. Her photographs were placed throughout the house. James hung the 2 identical drawings, Chloe's and Sarah's, side by side in the front hallway. Every time he passed them, he felt a sense of peace. "Did I do the right thing?" he asked Emily as they sat in the kitchen drinking hot chocolate after the twins went to bed. "Bringing her things here?" Emily asked. "I think so. It keeps her memory alive without turning the house into a shrine." "Not just that," James said. "All of it. Finding you and the twins, changing my life, moving here." Emily considered his question. Chloe thought it was right. That's why she sought out the twins in the first place. She wanted to complete the circle, as she put it. "Do you think we have?" James asked. "Completed the circle?" "I think we've created something new," Emily replied. "Something none of us expected, but all of us needed." On Christmas morning, James woke early in his new bedroom at the Oak Street house. He had moved in 2 days earlier to prepare for the holiday. Emily and the twins would arrive at 9 o'clock with their suitcases, officially moving in. He walked downstairs to check the Christmas tree one last time. Presents were stacked neatly beneath it. Stockings hung from the fireplace mantel, one each for Emily, Lucy, Sarah, and himself. He had added a smaller fifth stocking with Chloe's name. In the front window he had placed 3 dolls on display, Chloe's original Lily doll and the 2 identical dolls she had given to Lucy and Sarah. The morning sun caught them, creating a warm glow through the window. The doorbell rang precisely at 9 o'clock. James opened the door to find Emily and the twins bundled in winter coats, surrounded by suitcases and boxes. "Merry Christmas," Emily said, smiling tentatively. "Merry Christmas!" the twins shouted, rushing past James to see the tree. As James helped Emily with the luggage, he realized that Chloe had been right. The circle was now complete, not ended by death but expanded by love, creating a family that bridged both heaven and earth. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.